Everybody. Alrighty, so this video, I'm using some new tech tools that my husband has, and I'm working on making it this one, but I'm still new at this, so I'm still figuring it out. Alright, and so today's video is going to be on ambulance service. And so look at this as a business. Let me get this going, my notes. So the first thing is I want to make sure that we all understand what I mean by ambulance service. Because, it could be working on ambulances or, whatever. Whatever definition you may have. So what I'm looking at is the company that provides transportation to medical patients, both in emergency and non-emergency situations. However, we all know majority of the time an ambulance is an emergency transport to the hospital. Sometimes they do, like in our hospital, like I know if we go to Piedmont, they're going to get an ambulance to show if she has to be admitted or any of my kids have to be admitted to the hospital, and things of that nature. But for the most part, we're looking at, the giant medical van that helps in emergency situations. And it may not be a van, but the giant truck, right? The emergency truck. I feel like we all know what I'm talking about. But let's look at some of the things about what makes this business hard to start. So one of the things about this particular business is there's really high startup costs. You have to get the ambulance in place, you have to have specially trained staff, you have to deal with the contracts, and because there's a lot of established players in this space, according to my research, it may be easier to buy this business than start this business. But we're going to take a look and see what we can figure out today. Alrighty, so yet again, just some examples of some companies in this space: American Medical Response, Acadian Ambulance, and Med Express Ambulance, but basically any ambulance company that you've seen out and about. And some trends that you may not be aware of for this space is that the owners of these EMT ambulance service companies used to be EMT and paramedics. They have a love and passion for this space, but what usually happens in situations where the owner has a love and passion for the work, they're missing some of the skills. And for ambulance services, there's a lot of very specific skills you have to have. Logistics. Where are you going to sit in these ambulances? How does that work? If you're not familiar with the logistics space, or dispatching, trucks or ambulance or teams from one site to another, that can be really overwhelming. Medical billing. A huge piece of this service or this company is the fact that they are providing medical service. And so, do they have the right medical billing skills? Can they hire that out? And then you've got the EMTs themselves, which is a very specialized field. They have to go through lots of training. A lot of times, they may have to have the ability to be a nurse or, whatever's going on, depending on the state and the region and, where you're doing this particular job at. So there's a lot of specialty skills inside this business that make it run. Also, labor costs are really high and they're rising fast. It's a hard world to be an EMT. You are literally showing up every single day at somebody's worst day ever. And it can be very, very emotionally and physically draining. And so the labor is definitely a high cost for the business owner, because when you have jobs that people may not like to do or may be more difficult to do, it increases the cost to get it done. And then not only are all these costs high, the cost of the vehicle and the cost of the labor, but then you also have low reimbursements because oftentimes these patients are Medicare or Medicaid, covered by Medicare or Medicaid insurance. And so that makes it even harder to make sure that the business is running profitably. However, we all need ambulance services everywhere. I just don't know if it's a business that would buy. Let's dig in some more. All right, so some of the strengths and weaknesses of this company we've already kind of talked about. There's definitely high demand, We need ambulances everywhere all the time. You have a government-backed revenue stream, and it's recession proof. It doesn't matter if we are in a recession or if we are in the best economy ever. People still have emergencies. People still have to cover medical situations. But some of the weaknesses, I've already talked a lot about the billing, the high costs, the labor challenges, also regulatory and compliance risks. So because this is in the medical industry, there's a lot of regulatory elements to the ambulance space. Next is opportunities. Some of the things that could help an ambulance stand out a little bit. Non-emergency sector. So this is transporting people from like one hospital to another. They could do events, like corporate events or big local events where they need to have an ambulance or EMT on standby to make sure that everybody stays safe. You can always win new contracts. There's our population's aging. So 1 in 5 Americans are 65 or over. And the older you get, the more health challenges you have. And so having a pretty strong aging population in America definitely continues to keep that high demand. And then, as you will see with almost every one of these industry deep dives we do, AI can change the world for all of them. So AI also offers a lot of opportunities for the ambulance space. Now let's look at some threats. There's high cutthroat competition sometimes dealing with contracts with hospitals or nursing homes, and you're going to have some insurance or government challenges because it is Medicaid or Medicare backed, and then those labor shortages, which I've already kind of talked about. All right, so here's some questions that you might want to ask before you buy one of these businesses. What is the payer mix? How many clients are Medicaid? How many clients are Medicare? How many of the clients are private insurance? And how many of the clients are self-pay? And what does that look like to keep that payer mix where it is? You also want to look at what systems they use. How's their billing? Do you have medical billing experience? Do you have logistics experience? What does the logistics of running that particular company look like? All right, not only the payer mix on, who has Medicaid and who has Medicare, but you may also want to look at the age and health of most of the patients that your company or this company may be used to handling, and if you like to work with that demographic. Are there any lawsuits, any speeding tickets, traffic violations in the past or current that they're dealing with? Sometimes people will want to sell companies once they get hit with a lawsuit, so you want to double check and make sure that there's no blemishes in the legal history of this company, especially for the traffic violations, given that there's such a significant driving element to this business. And then you got to do a little bit of inner searching and make sure that this is the right business for you, of course. And then my favorite that I always ask business owners is, why are you selling? That will give you a lot of information. Are they selling because they have a legal situation they're dealing with? Are they selling because their grandmother's sick or their wife is sick or their child is sick? There's about 6 or 7 different reasons why a seller would sell their business, and understanding which one will really help you figure out what red flags you may have to overcome. How old is the fleet? All right, yet again, this is a heavy driving company, so you want to know everything you can about those ambulances. How old is the fleet? How large is the fleet? How are they on their maintenance? Is there any red flags you might need to be aware of when it comes to taking on those vehicles? Just like buying a vehicle for your family, you want to make sure these things are top-notch and ready to go. All right, so a couple of things to think about when you are looking at the valuation of an ambulance service company. Yet again, this can be hard to determine. There's lots of factors to consider for each specific business, but a few factors to consider in this particular business type are what contracts do they have and with who? nursing homes, hospitals. What is the tenure of the company? How long has it been around? What is the revenue of the company? And then how much does it cost per run? So per each patient that they take to the hospital or transfer or help, how much does it cost per person? Because that will really give you a lot of information about the business as well. All right, so these businesses are just a really hard business to run. They have a really high failure rate. So almost every deal needs to have a 12 to 24 month escrow account to cover risks and risk factors. But to give you some, at least a ballpark on valuation, is these companies may sell anywhere from 2 to 4 times SDE, which is seller discretionary earnings, or 2 to 6 times EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and appreciation. Alrighty, so hopefully that gives you at least a ballpark of where to look at when you're looking at evaluating one of these companies. A couple of other things to note about the ambulance service business. Make sure you check local, county, and state government for operational laws. As I said, that escrow account is super crucial, and the company has to maintain compliance in the following areas: licensing, permits, Medicaid, Medicare, HIPAA, and OSHA. So it's going to be super, super important that you know all 6 of these areas, you know what the expectations are, and then you make sure that this company is also within those legal limits for each of these. All right, so who would be the clients of an ambulance service? Obviously, a client ideally would be a patient located in a readily accessible area experiencing time-sensitive, life-threatening emergencies that require urgent medical care, who also has reliable insurance coverage for the payment of service. Now, you don't know when you pick them up if they have the reliable coverage. I'm sure you find that out on the backside, because if someone really needs that care, you're going to get them there just as soon as you can. All right, so here are a few things though. This client has insurance, or you hope has insurance. So, can your ideal client afford the cost? Yeah, you would hope so. There's 4 revenues. There's Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, and self-pay. It does have a strong client retention due to the fact that they operate with contracts from the hospitals and other medical providers. Clients can stay for a long time, even years. So what my note here says is that these contracts can stay in place for a long time. Easy to target, yes, but not in the original sense. They use contracts with medical providers and government entities. So, can you find a way to target them on Facebook? Probably not. Can you find a way to target them on LinkedIn? Probably not. But what you can do is build the relationships with the hospitals and the nursing centers and everyone else who helps these clients. All right, so the next question about the clients that I usually look at is there a pain? Absolutely. In this situation, your clients are in a life or death situation most of the time. So usually your ideal client can afford the cost. There is a strong retention due to the contracts in place, which also help you target your client, and there is a pain. So the clients in this industry are absolutely great as long as they have insurance. Was it simple? This company, this business, this industry absolutely is not simple. It is not simple at all. There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of moving parts. As I said before, there's logistics, medical billing, medical care, and more. You've got to deal with HR and staffing, and you have to deal with changing oil and vehicles and making sure you stay up to date with all of the legal situations. It is not an easy, simple business, but it's worth it because you save lives. So if this is a business for you, absolutely. We are grateful that you decide to go into this business because at some point we all might need you to save our life. All right, so is this business old and proven? Absolutely. So you may not know, but this industry started well into the probably late 1800s, 1900s. I know in 1966 is when it started as what we know today, or at least in the direction of what we know today. Before that, it was funeral parlors who had hearses and ambulances who would go and get people who were critically ill and, take care of them that way. But now, over the last, 50, 60 years, we have what we call the ambulance service situation, service companies that help save our lives. So it is definitely old. It is definitely proven. It's just not simple. All right. So there's constant demand, as I said. However, it is in a really red ocean. So if you're not familiar with the terms of ocean colors when evaluating businesses, you either have a blue ocean or you have a red ocean. What makes a red ocean so red is essentially there's so many players, they keep biting each other and causing blood to be in the water, making the water red. Whereas a blue ocean means you're safe from direct competitors trying to eat you alive. All right, so this particular industry is a very red industry. There's a lot of established players who control the market. There's high barrier to entry. There's cutthroat pricing. They can do price per run. They can make the pricing cheaper on those contracts. There's lots of different things that they can do to make their prices less than yours, which makes it such a dangerous red ocean. And as I said before, it's just easier to buy than to launch. Because there's so many established players, it really helps you get your foot in the door in this space because we all need this company. All right, so a couple of things to help you create a bluer ocean if you do decide to buy one of these companies is through the use of AI and tech, non-emergency transports, and working corporate events. So offering services that may not necessarily be seen as an ambulance day-to-day situation, and then really leaning into the AI and how that might change your industry. All right, so next, does an ambulance service meet a need? Absolutely. These people are in a life or death situation. You absolutely meet a need. Does the pain exist? Yep, it's a life or death situation. Clients have a very strong need. Does it fall into one of the three categories, financial, relationship, or health? No financial, no health, or no relationship, but it's definitely a health situation. It is very much offering medical services. All right, so what specialization or barriers to entry exist? There is a lot of specializations in this space. Lots of skill sets needed, high competition, and established players. So it does both have specialization and barrier to entry elements that can make it very hard for a new business or for a business owner in general. Can we add contractual elements? These are already in place. As I mentioned, you can do the contracts with the nursing homes, or the ambulance can do the contracts with the hospital. So there's lots of different options of making it contractual, which benefits the owner because then it gives you a steady monthly income. And the next question to think about is exit. I have recently started telling every business owner, you have to start with the end in mind. You have to think about that exit before you buy, before you start, before you launch. So in this industry, as I've said several times, it's easier to break through in this industry than by buying into it than by launching it as a startup. However, franchising is hard due to the high level of regulations. So can you resell? Yeah. Can you buy? Yeah. Can you franchise? Probably not. It's probably not going to be a great idea there. Now, whether I would buy this company or not, I don't really want to share, but I would love to hear what you think. in the comments. Do you think this is a business worth investing? Do you think this is a business worth my investment? I'd love to hear what you have to say. And just remember, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell a business, I would love to help. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye.